James Charles is hands down one of the biggest cheaters and scammers in the history of the internet. Not only has he betrayed his closest friends, but he's also been accused of harassing his young fans and releasing one of the worst makeup products the beauty world has ever seen. A product that ended up damaging the skin of countless users, including his loyal fans and well-wishers. And the worst part? He has shown zero remorse for any of it. The self-proclaimed apology king, or should we say the most fake apology expert, is the topic of today's deep dive. So, buckle up, because we're about to take you through a wild roller coaster ride into the world of scams, lies, and jaw-dropping scandals surrounding the crowned king of nonsense content and controversy, James Charles. Now, many of you might already be familiar with who James Charles is, but for those who are new to the drama, don't worry, we've got you covered. So without wasting another second, let's dive straight into the most explosive controversy of them all, and then we'll trace our way back to where it all began. This scandal, my friends, tops the list, not just because it's vile, but because it involves betrayal of the most personal kind. James Charles, the so-called beauty and fashion influencer, betrayed his best friend Kayla Malec by siding with her abusive boyfriend Evan Johnson, a man who allegedly assaulted, exploited, and emotionally wrecked Kayla over an extended period. Instead of standing by her, James chose to protect the... And trust us, that's just the beginning. Here is what James Charles has to say about it.
I do not support Evan Johnson in any way, shape, or form. Let me make that clear. I don't support him, I don't support against, and I sure as hell do not support the disgusting, deplorable, that he committed against...
Oh wait, but is sleeping considered as supporting Mr. James the Cheater Charles? Because here's the strongest evidence against you.
So let's go back a little bit to James Charles' involvement. Would it be fair to say that you felt like the nature of their relationship was definitely sexual?
It was 100% sexual.
We hope you've got the whole nonsense and fake explanation thing that James Charles keeps on doing on his channel. At this moment, you all might be sitting there with a blurry idea, wondering, how do we even know if this is the full truth? And hey, we get you. We totally get you, but let's not forget, we never speak without receipts. We've got the evidence, and we're going to take you straight to the roots of this controversy in just a bit. But before that, let's rewind a little and answer the big questions. Who exactly is James Charles? What does he really do for a living? And how does he somehow manage to land himself in a never-ending list of scandals year after year? Honestly, it almost feels like he lives for controversy. Or better yet, maybe he is the controversy. A walking, talking, attention-hungry puddle of drama. Or should we just call him the dirty puddle of controversies himself? So, James Charles is a makeup and fashion influencer with around 24.1 million subscribers on his YouTube channel, 20.2 million followers on his Instagram, around 40.2 million followers on his TikTok channel, and owns a big makeup brand called Painted, and this is the website of his brand. So, all in all, the conclusion here is he is extremely famous. His following is insanely huge, and he earns a massive amount of money. No wonder he's still doing pretty well for himself after his dedicated participation in all the controversies. So, where did it all start from? This personality, this aura, this fame, and especially this attitude of I can do anything and get off with anything and everything I like. It all started with a yearbook photo shoot. Yep, that's exactly how he looked in his yearbook, glamorous and outstanding. But here's the real tea. The original photo taken by the school photographer was pretty basic, just like every other kid in his class. But James being James, well, of course, he wasn't having any of that. He wanted his picture to pop, to scream uniqueness and glamour. So, what did he do? He took matters into his own glittery hands. He started brushing his hair, twisted it into a funky little bun, and then, in true James Charles fashion, splashed his favorite colors all over his face like it was his personal makeup runway. And voila! With a signature one-sided pose and a face full of flair, he was ready for the camera his way. Because why fit in when you can stand out? right? His friends, who were surprised then, are still surprised and share their yearbook picture on their social media now after the fame that James had got, just because it had James Charles in it. This picture of him didn't just revolve around his own high school kids' social media, but also got the eyeballs of the very famous CoverGirl magazine. The CoverGirl team loved it so much that they decided to print it as the next big cover of their magazine. But sadly for James Charles, it did due to the highlights to all the newspapers and social media handles that time saying, "Meet at J. Charles Beauty, makeup artist, boundary breaker, and the newest CoverGirl. Hashtag CoverGirl James." A lot of people hated it, especially the girls out there who stood strongly against it. The internet started buzzing with backlash, and people began forming a negative perspective toward CoverGirl magazine for featuring a boy on the cover of a magazine that literally said CoverGirl. It sparked outrage, debates, and endless Twitter threads. Sure, there were people who defended him, but let's be real. If a magazine called Kids suddenly featured a fully grown man with a bushy beard and heavy mustache on its cover, wouldn't that raise a few eyebrows? Wouldn't that be something worth dragging into a discussion? And that's exactly what happened here. James Charles didn't first become famous for his makeup skills or viral content. Nope, he made his grand entrance into the spotlight through a big, bold controversy, the kind that split the internet right down the middle. Suddenly, the world was divided into two firm camps, the lovers and the haters. And like any good drama, both sides were loud, passionate, and ready for war. Controversy didn't just knock on James Charles' door, he practically rolled out the red carpet and welcomed it in with a glam selfie. After his viral CoverGirl post on Twitter, James Charles quickly became a hot topic of debate. But let's be honest, the real controversies didn't kick off until later in 2017. That's when things took a serious nosedive. While flying to Africa, James tweeted what many consider to be one of the most blatantly racist posts the internet had seen at the time. And yes, the backlash was instant and global. People from every corner of the world slammed him for it, and rightfully so. The tweet read, "I can't believe we're going to Africa today. Oh my god, what if we get Ebola?" And to make it worse, he added, "James, we're fine. We could have gotten it at Chipotle last year." Yikes. That one post exposed a shocking level of ignorance and insensitivity, especially from someone with a massive young and impressionable audience. What was meant to be a joke turned into a firestorm, and James found himself drowning in criticism. And no, not the kind that quietly fades away, the internet made sure this one stuck around. This was one of the first major stains on his public image, and the beginning of a long list of apologies, excuses, and controversies that would go on to define his career more than his actual content. Insane, right? James Charles loves to fake shower his delusional elegance in every single thing he does or says, and here he had straightway insulted every citizen of Africa by pointing out Ebola in less of a humorous way and more of a disrespecting way. It was so big and bad that it again made it to the headlines. Affinity magazine didn't hold back. They posted, "His manager, James Charles' manager, called and told us to take this down. We said, nope. Please spread this, at CoverGirl." They went on to call out the root of the problem that James apparently believed Africa equals Ebola, a reductionist and ignorant view that insulted an entire continent. And honestly, that was a pretty sharp and much-needed call-out by the journalists. The internet exploded. Everyone, and we mean everyone, was raging with anger. People began demanding answers, questioning how someone with such a massive following could casually post something so damaging and dismissive. I mean, come on. As an influencer, a creator, and the face of CoverGirl, isn't accountability supposed to come with the job? You don't just blurt out whatever reckless thought pops into your head. And on Twitter? Really? A public platform with millions of eyes watching you? The real question is, how did that thought even cross your mind in the first place? And worse, how did you think pressing tweet was a good idea? That's not just ignorance, that's blatant responsibility, pure and simple. And then, a few hours later, when James finally landed, the world around him had shifted. The smiles and applause? Gone. People's perception of him had taken a nosedive. The first thing he sees upon switching on his phone? News articles, tweets, and headlines all about him and his shameful comment. And guess what James does next? You started this by writing false clickbait article for your magazine, claiming I said the only thing Africa has to offer is Ebola. Bye. To which the writer had replied with, "It wasn't clickbait, James. This shows that obviously you aren't sorry. Ebola was eradicated from Africa in 2016. And the other comment says, "It really shows your privilege and ignorance to assume Africa is just a diseased land, and you joked about it. What a shame." Truly, James Charles could have been a little more conscious and just a bit more sensitive before tweeting something so reckless. If he had taken even a few minutes to think before posting, all of that chaos might have been avoided. One moment of mindfulness could have saved him from a massive public backlash, and quite possibly his reputation. But nope, that's the thing with social media. Once it's all out there, it's out forever. And for someone in the public eye, that single careless tweet turned into a wildfire of hate, disappointment, and disbelief. The worst part? After landing, James still seemed completely unaware of the gravity of his actions. No remorse, no realization, just silence, as if he hadn't just insulted an entire continent and let down millions of fans. The world was burning around his name, and he had no idea he'd lit the match himself. No apology at all, and this was his final tweet on the issue. "Block and move on, James. Block and move on." To which a black girl had replied with, No, James. Listen and learn that comments like that are problematic as hell. I love you, and this offended me solely." This girl seems to be a big fan of James and is trying to make him understand that his tweet has hurt a lot of fans like herself, who belong to Africa. But again, there was no apology by James Charles till then. The next day, James came up with the funniest apology in the history of Twitter. Well, the funnier are still on the list, and we will show them to you in the coming video, but for now, let us all just scan this bullshit. And it starts with, "Okay, I'm not going to post a bullshit apology. I was told what to say, and that's not how an apology should work. I'm extremely sorry for my tweet, and I feel like shit for saying it. I am traveling to Africa today with a few friends for a school trip. Ironically enough, it's an educational trip, because we all know very little about the country but are eager to learn." And he goes on and on and on, but is Africa even a country? At this point, the audience, who was raging with anger, had cracked into a big wave of laughter looking at James' narrow brain, who thinks of Africa as a country. And let's just finally notice the elephant in the room. Who in the world apologizes like that? Who starts their apology with, "I'm not going to post this apology, but I was told to"? It is awful and ridiculous. While the initial sentence ignited the anger in people's minds, him calling Africa a country gave a summary of James' brain power to the people reading his tweet. A hilarious comment here says Africa's not a country, FYI. And another one here is a hilarious meme. Let's now jump into another controversy that unfolded in the same year. The time James Charles randomly decided to roast a movie while still sitting in the theater. But James being James, how could we possibly expect him to know his boundaries? There's a thin line between roasting and straight-up disrespect, and James once again trampled right over it. There are seasoned critics out there, people who've spent years analyzing films, who write entire well-thought-out reviews when they don't like a movie. They explain their perspective, they keep it classy, and they might even say, "I wouldn't recommend this one." But when it comes to James, oh no, subtlety doesn't exist in his world. What he did was head to a screening of the movie It. And mid-movie, he just had to take to social media to trash it, loud and proud. No filter, no nuance, just vibes, and bad ones at that. Because let's be honest, watching a film in a theater and immediately dragging it online before the credits even roll, that's not critique, that's clout chasing wrapped in rudeness. Here's what he had to blabber on his Twitter all the time that he was in the theater. This is his first tweet, which reads, "Okay, 5 minutes in, and it is already awful. Stay tuned for updates." Who even gives a review on a movie within the first 5 minutes of it starting? Exactly. But if we're going to go down that road, then James Charles' videos are going to crash and burn fast. His followers might as well send him off with a farewell note that reads, "We didn't even enjoy the introduction of your channel in the first few minutes." And just like that, James Charles could have dragged himself all the way down with his very first CoverGirl controversy. But unfortunately, we're not James Charles. We're just regular human beings with a basic understanding of things, and at the very least, some empathy toward art, even when we don't fully get it. We recognize the effort, and when we do have criticism, we know how to place it gently and respectfully on the table, not slam it like a wrecking ball for the sake of attention. So here's a little advice for James. If you're gonna watch or review someone's work, be it a film, a show, or even a makeup look, maybe dial down the arrogance and turn up the humanity. Because otherwise, instead of sounding insightful, you just come off as, well, a piece of shit. A few more minutes into the theater, and boom, another tweet from James pops up. This movie is predictable. I've been texting at BeachLauren02 what I think is gonna happen next, and I've been right every single time so far. Applause, people. Let's give James his moment. An Oscar for Best Psychic in a movie theater might be in order, right? Because clearly predicting horror movie tropes is a talent worthy of global recognition. But here's a thought. If only he could channel that energy into actually doing something fresh and creative on his own channel, maybe, just maybe, we as an audience would finally have something to celebrate. Because believe it or not, James, we do root for you sometimes. We do hope for exciting content, new looks, iconic makeup moments, maybe even a bit of genuine fashion-forward flair. But nope. All we ever get is yet another headline, yet another controversy, and absolutely nothing groundbreaking from the guy who once had the world at his glitter-covered fingertips. At this point, we're not just disappointed, we're exhausted. After deleting a few more tweets, he did come up with this one. Why am I being attacked for saying I didn't like a movie? LMFAO, y'all need to find something better to do with your lives. Oh, of course. If all of James' followers would think like that, he'll remain with zero audience, hugging his colorful and hazardous color palettes, and all the underage people running behind him for revenge. Well, we shall get into those controversies in some time, but seriously, James, grow up, man. And another tweet, indeed. I didn't like it because it seemed as though it was branded to be a horror movie. I was not scared. I did not enjoy. Get over it. There always is a way of saying certain things, but the person who starts their apology with, I don't want to do this, but sorry, would not understand the basic ethics and morals, of course. So yeah, let's not blame him yet. But again, there's a whole series of tweets that went on and on the whole time James Charles was inside the theater. Well, people were surely disturbed with the whole thing till he came out of the theater. Let's quickly go through all the tweets that were exchanged between James and Finn Wolfhard. After a few tweets by James, Finn had tweeted, "Why are you on your phone in the movie theater? Rule 1. To which James has replied with, "I just got dragged by a legendary child actor. I'm kinda honored," which sounds more like sarcasm. And then James walked back to roasting the movie. It was a fantastically made movie. I went into it expecting to be more horror and was disappointed when I wasn't scared. Simple as that. This tweet literally could have gone after he had finished watching the movie. And most importantly, if you're in the theater and texting all the while when the movie's going on, how are you even going to get scared with the scenes? The minimum you could do is keep your eyes on the screen. Whew. Let's move on to the next one, because honestly now it feels unending. At Ghoulantics here has to say something. I'd rather watch a movie that spends time on developing good characters and settings than random jump scares, so... Well, any sensible person with a basic maturity of watching a movie would always wait patiently for the movie to surprise them till the end of it, and then come up with the feedback. But yeah, James always has something to say. So, he replies with, "That's amazing. I feel the opposite, but the amazing thing about opinions is that we all have our own and shouldn't attack people for them." Oh, wait. So, one can straight away attack the movie in the first few minutes of it starting while they're in the theater, but one can't judge your harsh and baseless opinions? Pretty unfair quotes and statements by James Charles here. There are more tweets, and we can go on for the next hour, but unfortunately, James has more controversies to his character. So let's quickly listen to his not-so-genuine apology and move on to another thing.
So I'm currently in an Uber, but I wanted to quickly make a video addressing this drama because this is getting way out of hand and ridiculous, and I wanted to just clarify things so it can be put to rest. I want to personally apologize to Finn and anybody else involved with the making of the movie It. I saw a few nights ago in theaters with friends, and I personally was disappointed in the movie. So therefore, during the movie and after, I tweeted saying it was awful, which was the social media over-exaggerator coming out in me, but it was rude and obnoxious, and I'm apologizing for it because that was wrong. The movie, if I'm being honest, was not awful at all. It was a fantastically made movie. The acting was great. The cinematography was absolutely beautiful. The plot development was great. The character development was absolutely great. I personally was disappointed in the movie because I had not seen the original or read the novel, and based on the trailers and the previews, I was expecting it to be a very, very scary movie. It looked like there was going to be a lot of jump scares and a lot of really, really scary scenes, and those are the type of movies that I love and love going to see, so I had high expectations for it. And when it was more focused on plot development and character development, and there's nothing wrong with that though, it was not what I was looking for or was looking forward to, so therefore I was personally disappointed, which is why I voiced my opinion, because that is my job as a social media influencer, to talk about those things. The thing about an opinion is that we're all able to have one, and it shouldn't be this big of a deal. Now, being someone who is in the spotlight sometimes, I really do understand what it feels like to work really, really hard on something and then put it out for the world to see, and having people be disappointed in it really, really sucks. Like, it really sucks. So therefore, that's why I'm apologizing for saying it was awful, because I know what it feels like, and I shouldn't have said that because it hurts. It really does hurt. On the other hand, however, when a big movie like that is going to be released to the public eye and millions of people are going to watch it, people are going to have opinions on it, and that's just how the world works. We all have our opinions. I personally did not like the movie. Millions of people did. It is currently #1 in the box office for a reason. These kids are all rolling in the dough right now. Stephen King is rolling in the dough because it was an amazing, amazing movie. There are many more important things to worry about in the world right now rather than James Charles' opinion on the movie It. So let's just move on. Like I said, I'm sorry for saying it was awful and being rude. I'm not sorry for having an opinion.
Well, as James himself said, he walked into the theater with a certain expectation, which, to be honest, is already setting yourself up for disappointment, especially when it's a horror movie packed with suspense and mystery. These kinds of films need time to build atmosphere, tension, and character arcs before they dive into the actual scary stuff. You can't expect a movie to terrify you within the first 5 minutes. That's just not how storytelling works. It's like expecting rice to be fully cooked and ready to eat in 4 minutes when it clearly needs at least 15. Patience is a virtue, James. And here's the kicker. James defended himself by saying everyone's allowed to have an opinion. And you know what? He's right. But guess what? That door swings both ways. Finn Wolfhard had an opinion about your tweet. So did thousands of others who read your little live commentary on Twitter. So don't call it an attack when people respond to your opinion with theirs. That's how the internet and basic human discourse works. If you want to dish it out, you've got to be able to take it too. Take the criticism gracefully, James. After all, everybody's allowed to have an opinion, remember? But you know what the worst part is? Why? You said you didn't like it. You said it's shit. You are making content out of it. So you aren't loyal to your own fans? People call you an influencer for a reason. You can't do stuff just for the sake of money. If you had a strong opinion about the movie being that bad, you shouldn't have come back to your channel and come up with this makeup look. This is what you call it every time. Awful. Let's move on to the next one. And this one is the bad one. First of all, James managed to pull Zendaya to do a makeup video with him. Zendaya! So, everything aside, this one was a really big one. The task here was the 5-minute makeup challenge.
Hi, I'm James Charles.
And I'm Zendaya.
This basically was a competition where James and Zendaya went against each other to check who did the best makeup, and the competition looked somewhat like this.
Intensify me. Boom. I'm just gonna put it right here. Ooh, okay, that is blue. That is blue.
Oh wow,
honey.
that's really purple.
So much blue. Okay.
Hey, you know what we're just gonna blend? CoverGirl mascara that I was on the campaign for. Oh no! Oh wow!
Breathe, breathe.
As we can clearly see, James has been nothing short of a complete chaotic mess throughout this entire video. A super duper dramatic disaster, if we're being honest. He had a golden opportunity to showcase his talent, literally sharing the screen with Zendaya, and what did he do with it? Scream, flail, and mess up the most basic elements of eye makeup. James, don't you have your own eyeshadow brand? Wasn't that your thing? The least you could have done was slap on a few decent shades and give the look your own original flair. But nope, instead of serving glam, you served chaos on a glittery platter. And of course, in true queen fashion, Zendaya came in cool, calm, and collected and walked away with the win. Because when you put talent and grace side by side with messy theatrics, the outcome is pretty obvious. James had the spotlight, and once again, fumbled it. Moving on. In the year 2018, James Charles came up with the new drama called Sister Squad. Let's give you a sneak peek of what. So, one could easily know the energy that the Sister Squad had in the initial times. But again, James never gets out of the character. So James started flirting with Ethan Dolan, and oh my god, he went too far. Like, too far.
Grayson! Hey, sister! Hey, sister, how are you? Miss you the most! We're actually going to mukbang IHOP right now. You want to come?
Oh, I am pretty hungry, but can you just, bang me instead?
Yeah, that's exactly how it looked the whole time. James just couldn't hold back, constantly flirting with Ethan Dolan, and not in a cute, subtle way. It was so excessive that it eventually spiraled out of control. The awkward tension kept building, and finally, the Sister Squad had enough. They kicked James Charles out of the group. Let's be real, he wasn't even originally supposed to be part of the Sister Squad, but James, being James, managed to squeeze himself in by constantly commenting under Ethan Dolan's posts, sliding into his replies, and flooding his social media with borderline thirsty content. And it didn't stop there. Oh no, he even started tweeting about the Dolan twins as if they were his personal crush diaries. What started off as playful fan behavior quickly crossed the line, turning the vibe from funny to uncomfortable. And when you're part of a squad built on chemistry and mutual respect, that kind of energy, total deal breaker. Every time one of the Dolan twins posts a selfie, I die inside. And that made him a place in the group. The flirting by James Charles went so far that people started imagining that James and Ethan were dating. It went on and on so bad that people started making videos on their secret love story. After a while, the Sister Squad videos stopped popping up on the channel.
What the f are we doing in Vegas? Having fun!
What's up, guys? It's me. I'm with my Sister Squad!
And very, very sadly, even the Dolan twins stopped posting on their channel. So basically, the Sister Squad took it all in a funny and chill way in the start, but then when James's behavior and flirting started going out of hand, they subtly kicked James from their group, and then there were no Sister Squad videos seen on the internet. Also, in another makeup video, when asked about the celebrity that James Charles hates the most, he said Ariana Grande. And here is why he said so.
Who's been the rudest celebrity you've ever met?
Ariana Grande.
Can you talk about this?
Yeah, I guess.
Have you ever talked about this?
No.
This is everything. Hello, how have you been
It's
hiding?
Gage.
This is Gigi Gorgeous on
Well,
YouTube Red.
it-
It's everything.
I haven't really talked about it because I really like Ariana. I just had a really crappy experience with her, but I went to her show here in LA, and that's when I met Kim Kardashian for the first time, who was so nice. And I posted a bunch of videos on my story from the night. The next morning I had woken up and she had DM'd me. I was like, oh my god, thank you Rhea, for coming, and she was so sweet, and I was like, oh, I love you the most ever in the world. To this day, I don't really have hard feelings about it. I think she's so talented, but she had followed me and DM'd me, and I was like, oh my god, I love you the most ever, like, thank you. And she was like, oh my god, wish I knew you were coming, like, I would have loved to have you backstage. And I was like, oh. This is right after, like, all my scandals started happening, so I was getting, like, a bunch of really, really angry tweets from her fans that were really mad that she had followed me, and literally 4 hours later, I started getting tweets being like, wow, Ariana unfollowed James, like, the rat gets what he deserves, like, wow, love karma. And I was like, what the heck? So I checked, and she did actually unfollow me, like, literally 3 hours after she
Maybe
followed
you
me
just
in the
tweet
first
too
place.
much.
So, as James himself admitted, Ariana Grande followed him on Instagram and then unfollowed him just 3 hours later. And the reason behind that sudden move? You guessed it, the infamous Ebola tweet. Let's be honest, no mature, sensible person is going to stick around if you're out here crossing boundaries and casually tossing out racist, ignorant remarks like it's no big deal. Actions have consequences. And when your words start throwing dirt, especially the kind that stereotypes and offends entire communities, people will walk away. Fast. Ariana didn't even have to say a word. That unfollow, that was the statement. Loud and clear. Later then, a very famous makeup brand called Makeup Geek by Marlina Stell did the business of around $1 million in the start and around $10 million within the first 5 years, which for an indie brand is so much more. So, one day, Netflix got their eyes on Makeup Geek and showed their interest in making a documentary on the journey of Makeup Geek, which for anyone from the makeup and fashion industry was the moment of pride. While everyone else was congratulating Marlina for her success, James Charles on the other side had written this. This woman knows nothing about the industry other than blaming her bad business decisions and personal issues on influencers. At Netflix, this is absurd, and I'd love to get in a room together to show you the non-biased outline I've already made on this subject that documents all sides. First of all, you want a room now? Why not just cut to the chase and beg for a Zoom call instead of barking from behind a tweet? And seriously, this woman knows nothing about the industry? Bloody hell, James, you didn't know a damn thing when you landed on the cover of CoverGirl. You had zero awareness while tweeting about Ebola. Your own makeup brand flopped harder than anyone expected, and you have the audacity to call a multi-million-dollar businesswoman clueless? That, my friend, is the peak of immaturity and straight-up narcissism. If anything, all that reeks from this tweet is the unmistakable burning stench of jealousy. How else do you explain someone trying to pull down a competitor in such a shady, unethical way, discrediting years of hard work, strategy, and sacrifice? Anyone who has ever tried to build something of their own knows what it takes. The time, the energy, the money, and the emotional investment. And credibility? That's not handed to you on a silver platter. You earn it, and you guard it with blood, sweat, and tears. So maybe instead of crying for a room to share your so-called unbiased outline, try working on your own character and your collapsing brand first. To give you a quick brief on what happened when James Charles launched his own makeup brand in the market, it was the biggest flop in history. So, the brand called Painted was out in the market, and just within a few days it got popular all over the world. Every other person was using this brand by James Charles. The reason being, it had a lot of different colors on the palette, and one could use it on their eyes, cheeks, lips, and all over their face. The colors were the major attraction. The colors pulled out a glam look on anybody's face. Also, James Charles already had a massive following of millions of people on his social media accounts. So, he and all his famous collaborators played their roles in the marketing of the product really well. But what happened is, the product delivery issues started going out of hand, and the prices slowly started skyrocketing. On the other hand, his makeup products had started getting the feedback which said it had hazardous effects on people's skin. Also, there were complaints regarding the shipping and overall delivery process of the product from a lot of parts of the world who ordered the Painted product. A lot of people are very sad about the cost of the product. Many of them said it's not even close to many of the great makeup and beauty brands who are way more trustworthy and are going on for years and years. But Painted by James Charles still cost a very heavy amount, excluding delivery and other heavy charges too. Come back to James' jealousy over Marlina's documentary, here's another half-assed apology by James. I regret how I handled things yesterday on Twitter regarding @Marlina Stell and @Netflix. I've apologized to Marlina privately, but I owe her a public apology too, and I'm sorry for undermining her. I acted childishly out of anger, and I shouldn't have blamed her for her participation. And of course, how can the apology be pushed without the explanation? How can James be genuine about anything anyway? So, here's another fat-ass explanation to it. Definitely true. I don't think my experience is any more valid than Marlina's. I'm just praying that whatever is said is non-biased, because her original video was based on a lot of personal feelings and experiences, rather than the industry as a whole. And that's why I'm upset. If anybody is working in an industry, they are allowed to develop an opinion about that industry based on their own experiences. But you can't expect common sense from a person like James. I do not, however, apologize for being passionate about the industry I work in and for wanting my community/followers to be able to make educated decisions based on factual, unbiased information. I look forward to the doc and hope to speak with her soon about our opposing viewpoints. Like, seriously? Why even bother apologizing if your entire explanation is just one long excuse about why you don't think you were wrong in the first place? If your only goal is to look good in front of your audience while secretly patting yourself on the back, just save the breath. We can all see right through it. Your apology is buried under 1,000 words of justification, deflection, and ego. And the worst part? You still couldn't stop yourself. You kept going, explaining, defending, and trying to rewrite your own narrative like this is some PR stunt. It's exhausting, it's insincere, and quite honestly, it's one of the most pathetic things a person can do. But hey, James being James, are we even surprised anymore? He's just living up to the standard he set for himself. Loud, dramatic, and unapologetically awful. Later in the year 2019, James Charles was seen showing off his ass with an assless costume at an occasion, which apparently dragged a lot of eyeballs, and that is how he started his new year. Then came the most awaited celebration and occasion of the year, Coachella. So, James Charles was seen visiting the Coachella with some random guy and was rumored to be seeing or maybe dating this guy named Gage Gomez. After all the swirling rumors, James finally addressed the situation, saying, "Nope, unfortunately I'm still very single. This boy played me for months on end and is a disgusting con artist. I'm thankful I had my friends with me to protect me." Really, James? You were seen with him everywhere, publicly, repeatedly, and now you're calling him disgusting? Have some honesty and accountability. You can't rewrite the narrative when things don't go your way. It's exhausting to watch. And let's talk about Gage, the person at the center of all this. Here's what he had to say about the entire situation. He lays it out clearly, and it paints a very different picture from the one James is trying to sell. Let's be crystal clear. If you're pressuring a minor, straight man into doing things he's explicitly said he's uncomfortable with, that's not just wrong, that's criminal. Full stop. You don't get to call someone a con artist when you were the one ignoring their boundaries. This isn't just drama anymore. This is serious. This is dangerous. James, stop. For your own sake and for the sake of every person you drag into your mess, just stop. Also, let's come to the part where James talked about his friends. Talking about James Charles's friends, here is the Sister Squad with the Loyal Sisters. As we can see, the real Sister Squad was actually enjoying the time of their life at Coachella without James. James still somehow managed to make it to Coachella during the second weekend, and this time he went alone. He just wanted to soak up the vibes and enjoy the event again, but in classic James fashion, he didn't exactly think things through, especially when it came to the tickets. Unlike other influencers who were well prepared or already confirmed, James didn't have a VIP pass for the second week. Why? Because the Coachella management had no idea he was showing up again. So there he was at the venue, unannounced, and suddenly surrounded by a massive crowd. It wasn't the glam entrance he was used to, it was chaos. He was stuck in the crowd, overwhelmed, and had no clue how to get himself out of the situation. At that point, the smartest thing he could do was call a friend and get some help. And that's exactly what he did. Funny how things change, right? Just a few years earlier, James could barely attract a crowd of 50 people.
Bring me a little water now. Bring me a little water, Sylvie.
He'd be sitting on the ground, jamming and enjoying the music like any regular festival goer. But now, the crowd was enormous, and James began to feel the pressure. The fame, the attention, it was all becoming too real, too fast. In a desperate moment, James reached out to Nikita Dragun. And here's where it gets interesting. He struck a little behind-the-scenes deal. If Nikita or her contacts at the brand Sugar Bear Hair could get him past security and safely inside, he would agree to do a collaboration with the brand in return. Yep, a full-blown product endorsement in exchange for a rescue mission. Within just a couple of minutes, James was rescued and safely brought inside. The very next day, he went live on his social media and started promoting his new sponsor, the brand Sugar Bear Hair. Now, here's where the real drama begins. Enter Tati Westbrook, a renowned beauty influencer and, more importantly, a direct competitor of Sugar Bear Hair. But this isn't just about business. Tati wasn't just any other influencer, she was James Charles' best friend. Their bond had always been seen as unshakable. Tati had supported James through everything, literally everything. She gave him a roof over his head during his early days, stood by him through every public storm, and most notably, she had his back loud and clear when he was drowning in backlash during the Ebola tweet controversy. When no one else would, Tati showed up for him.
Hi, sister.
And how does James repay her? by turning around and doing a brand deal with her competitor without even giving her a heads up. A brand deal, mind you, that he made in exchange for a favor to get into a party, not because he believed in the product, not because of loyalty, but out of convenience and desperation. That's not just shady, that's straight up snake behavior. Untrustworthy, disloyal, a big, big cheater in the friendship department. For anyone who's been friends with someone for years, a move like this feels nothing short of a stab in the back. It's not just carelessness, it's betrayal. After all the brand promotions for Sugar Bear hair, James had absolutely nothing to say to his best friend, someone who was practically family to him, Tati Westbrook. Let's be real, if James truly valued the friendship, or even had a shred of professionalism, he should have informed Tati about the brand deal before going live and broadcasting it to millions. But nope, not only did he skip the heads up beforehand, he didn't even have the decency or concern to reach out after the promo aired. And what exactly was Tati supposed to do with that? This wasn't a harmless prank or a playful jab, it was a clear betrayal, the kind that cuts deep and stays with you. You weren't pulling your friend's leg, James. You were pulling the rug out from under her. So how did Tati feel about all this? Well, let's not guess. Let's stop assuming and hear it straight from her.
Hey you guys, welcome to today's video. Obviously from the title you know that this is going to be intense, different, and this is absolutely not a video I ever thought in a million years that I would be making, but I feel after a lot of thought that it's necessary for me to have a chat with you guys. I feel when you put aspects of your life out online that at some point you are going to have to address them if you make a radical shift. So a lot of you guys saw my Instagram story. There have been countless videos made about it. For me, what happened when I posted the video that now has gone very widespread, I was sitting here in the studio, I didn't have makeup on, I was ready to film a makeup try on, and I received a text from James Charles. I was completely blindsided and my emotions just got the best of me. I never jumped straight to social, but I was just like so gutted, and I made that 2-minute little Insta story. It was therapeutic for me. I don't regret it. What I said in that video basically was that I feel really lost in this community, and that's so true. And it is more than one thing. And it wasn't specifically just about vitamins or about Halo, but it was just about being lied to and feeling disrespected. And you know, James Charles, he had 9 days after Coachella to talk to me. He knows where I live. It's not far from him. He could have come face to face and chatted with me because he knew that this would hurt me. We've had plenty of in-person conversations that were at length about other influencers doing the same deal and him not liking Sugar Bear hair and dragging the other people and being like, Tati, I'm on your side, like you've got me, like I will support you. Yes, mom, like you've got my loyalty. So I always felt really comfortable with that.
At this point, everyone felt incredibly bad for Tati. Just imagine, someone calls you their mother, their best friend, shares endless gossip sessions with you about competitors, vents, laughs, confides, and then one day, boom, they backstab you like it was nothing. The deepest betrayal doesn't come from strangers. It comes from the ones you trust the most. And in this case, James Charles didn't just cross a line, he erased it completely. He had openly criticized and about Sugar Bear hair to Tati multiple times. And yet, when it suited him, he sold out without even blinking. This moment became a major wake-up call, not just for Tati, but for all of us watching. We, the audience, consume content every single day. We like it, we share it, we relate to it. And somewhere deep in our minds, we start to unconsciously trust these influencers, even admire them. That's the power of digital media. It's huge, it's unstoppable, and sometimes it's dangerous. That's why it's so important, especially for younger viewers, to reevaluate who you're following and why. Not everyone who's viral is valuable. Not everyone who calls themselves an influencer should be influencing anyone at all. Influence isn't a job title. It's not something you wake up and decide to claim. It's something people draw from you based on your actions, your character, and your authenticity. So please be mindful, be intentional. Don't follow blindly. Because in this digital age, people aren't always who you think they are.
Yes, mom, like, you've got my loyalty. So I always felt really comfortable with that. And I, of course, to not even get a phone call, to not even get a text a few days prior, but right after that sponsored post went up, to have a text like, hey mom, love you, I'm stressed. Just so you know, XYZ, I just did this post, but it's no big. And that's pretty typical of James Charles's behavior from the time that I met him when he was 17, before he really had taken off on YouTube at all. I know that he has a way of just getting what he wants. And I've always blamed it on his age. I've been like, oh, he'll grow up. Like, it's fine. He'll grow up. Like, there's something about him that I just adore and love, and he'll grow out of this and he'll mature, and I want to be someone that can give him solid advice, and there's something in my heart that is pulled to him, and I love him, and I am there for this kid through and through. And I really have been, and there's so much that you guys don't know, and I'm gonna share a lot of it with you because I feel at this point that I have to, because Gabriel Zamora decided to drag me out on the dance floor by calling me out by name in a video that he made about opinions in makeup. I wanna say that I don't know Gabriel Zamora, we've never had any beef, but we are not friends. Majority of the time that I've spent with Gabriel Zamora was in James Charles's kitchen, which was not too long ago. Before that, I'd maybe give him a hug, hi, how are you, at like a couple of events maybe throughout the years, but we aren't friends. We don't hang out. I don't have his phone number. We don't chat, DM, talk, none of that. There's no relationship. So he does not know me at all. And I really have to feel from what I've witnessed in the past of how stuff kind of goes down as far as like really ripping into a situation and giving your, your 2 cents. This is typical behavior if you go and hang out with a group of influencers. Yes, it's about makeup. Yes, sometimes business. Yes, sometimes jokes. But a lot of the time, it's whatever's brewing or happening or someone going through something, and just like everybody kind of giving their little bit of it to the point that the whole story changes. And I just couldn't help but feel that that's what happened because everybody was hanging out behind closed doors. I know that James Charles was very, very upset and obviously venting to his friends, which in turn, for whatever reason, made Gabriel Zamora feel empowered enough to call me out by name. It really minimized my feelings. It's a horrible thing to tell a person like, hey, it's sunshiny outside, don't feel bad about whatever you're going through. And I always like to tell people, pain is pain, and yeah, at some point you have to feel it, express it, release it, and then set it down and move ahead, because life will never stop being painful no matter where in the world you are, no matter what your circumstances. You are always going to experience heartbreak, and that's part of being human. For me, I always like to say that just because the person next to you is in a full body cast doesn't mean that your broken arm doesn't hurt. Pain is pain. Feel it, let it go the way you do, process things the way you do, but that's private and that's your business, and no one has any to tell you how to feel. So that was so not right on so many levels. But even that, like, I was in North Carolina with my sisters, I saw that snap, everybody's, tweeting me, and I'm like, I still gotta let this go. Like, I just gotta let this go. But then with the video, I'm like, okay, we're getting a little bit rough and wild right now, and I feel like behind the scenes, my name is being dragged and my reputation and my character. I need to speak on a few things that I feel would have been better handled privately. But we're public, and just like Gabriel said in his video, like, I started this public, bad on me. I am an influencer, creator, whatever we want to call it. I do live a portion of my life online, so what you guys saw in that IG story, that happens to so many of us. Like, we let our emotions lead because we're creatives, and you have access to this piece of technology that allows you to express, so widely and so quickly. I'm a really, really big believer in hitting the pause button, thinking things through. In that moment, I didn't. So here we are, and I'm gonna talk about it all.
Tati clearly looked deeply hurt by James's actions. Her expression said it all. Disappointment, heartbreak, and that crushing feeling of betrayal that doesn't just vanish overnight. It takes a lot of time for something like that to truly sink in. What stood out most was Tati's emotional honesty. She talked about the importance of feeling your pain by not just brushing it off or pretending everything is okay. According to her, sitting with that pain and acknowledging it is part of real healing, and that alone shows just how much the friendship meant to her. This wasn't just an influencer drama. For Tati, it was personal, and she was clearly in real emotional turmoil. Her words weren't rehearsed, they weren't shallow, they came from a place of genuine hurt and reflection. Let's see what more she has to say, because this is where things start to get even deeper.
Obviously, so many of you guys understand that this is more than just a sponsored post. It has layers. There's so much going on with James Charles right now that I do not support, that I do not agree with. Fame, power, and a fat bank account will change almost anyone. And if you don't have people that will tell you to your face that you're doing the wrong things, you will change. And I tried to be that person for you, James. I really tried. I don't think there's any getting through to you, and I don't want to be friends with you. I don't want to be associated with you. And I need to say that very publicly so that this chapter can just be closed.
So, James Charles betraying Tati wasn't the only reason she decided to end the incredible bond they once shared. Oh no, there's more to the story. And now it's taken a serious twist. Turns out the Sugar Bear hair fiasco was just the tipping point. There were other things that had been bothering Tati for a long time. Red flags she chose to ignore because she genuinely believed James was like a son to her, a best friend, someone she felt responsible for. In her eyes, James was just a young kid trying to find his place in the beauty industry, and she took it upon herself to guide him, mentor him, and keep him on track, both personally and professionally. But now, the truth is starting to unravel. Fasten your seatbelts, guys, because the layers of this story are about to fall apart one by one. What you thought was just influencer drama is about to expose something much deeper.
So I want to share with you guys really quickly why I'm being so public about this, because I know the first thing a lot of people will say is, hey, why didn't you pick up the phone? Why didn't you message him back? Like, you guys should have handled this privately. And I absolutely agree. The moment that everything kicked off, he started panicking, he was texting me, and then it got increasingly demanding. And I don't deal well with someone telling me that I need to accept an apology on their terms to fix their problems. So when you cannot even say, I'm so sorry, I knew this was gonna hurt you, I hate seeing you cry, oh my gosh, I can't believe that you're feeling this upset, like, I didn't think that you'd be this upset. When you can't have any emotion for the other person who loves you so much, and all you're caring about is your image, and that people are questioning if it's you, and people are commenting, and that's what you're worried about, I'm not okay with that, and I need to take a time out. I knew that I needed to talk to James, and I was planning on hopping in my car and, sitting down with him, but I changed my mind very, very quickly when I found out that he had been giving his side to drama channels. He had been in contact with plenty of them. I immediately knew that this was all about damage control and had little to do with his care for me, because I just don't think that he does. If that's the playing field that we're on and I have to go there, just know my receipts are stacked thick. To be in full disclosure, I have spoken with 2 drama channels that reached out, and one of them is Here for the Tea, the other is Tea Spill. They're both making videos. I needed to share a little bit of where I was coming from, and even in those messages, the first thing that I say is I'm crushed because this person was family to me. This person is someone that I absolutely loved, cared for, and would have spent all the time in the world protecting. But he's just too far gone at this point, and the behavior that I don't think I can even talk about, the DMs that I'm getting and the things that I'm hearing are so gross that I don't think that I can protect that, and I don't think I can help that, and I have to let this go, I have to let this go. So there's the full disclosure.
So, James didn't even think he owed Tati a single explanation. Not once. And while he carried on like nothing happened, Tati, despite being deeply hurt, was still caring about him, still processing everything with grace and dignity. Meanwhile, James was out there shamelessly reaching out to all the drama channels, scrambling to keep his image clean. Why? Because deep down, he knew he had betrayed Tati, and he knew the backlash was coming. But this time, it was Tati's turn to say, enough is enough. But here's the difference. Tati is not like James. She didn't go running to the drama channels to control the narrative. In fact, it was the drama channels who reached out to her. That's how you know she wasn't looking for attention, she was just trying to protect her peace. And let's be real, James isn't fooling anyone anymore. His attempts to whitewash his public image? Too little, too late. The damage is done. His reputation isn't just cracked, it's darker and shadier than ever before.
Beautiful. I love that it is so sleek, elegant, and you just have this like nice glossy Morphe and James Charles. The names of the shadows are on this little plastic guy right here. And then it says, unleash your inner artist. I think this is beautiful. I could have just never talked to James again, which was an option I had in my mind because I just didn't want to give him anything to work with. Like you guys have to understand, like, I'm freaking afraid of him. Like, he's 19 and I'm afraid of him. Like, that's messed up.
Before moving on to the next scandal, let's again gather ourselves and watch another half-assed nonsense apology of James to Tati.
To Tati and James Westbrook, I'm sorry for everything that is going on and everything that I've put you through over the past few weeks. I met Tati.
Every single word, even the deep breath, looks fake. And that is what the whole video consists of. Fake words and unnecessary deep breaths whenever he goes blank. Even the $1 million in your wallet aren't happy with your behavior and your apology, James. But, does the James Charles apology video ever come out alone? Nope. It always is backed with an explanatory video or tweet about how he was dragged to the court where he had to apologize, but he doesn't really feel that way, blah blah. So little time passes after the apology video, and then on May 18th, 2019, a 40-minute long video pops up on his YouTube which says, "No more lies," explaining his side of the story with Tati, Gage, Zara Larson, and more. Let's take a quick look into it.
Before posting my stories, I actually did text Tati first out of respect for her, giving her heads up about the sponsorship, but she was immediately upset. I tried my best to kind of explain the entire situation and also give her a direct apology as well, but at this point I had signed the contract and I absolutely had to post it. There was no getting out of it.
After the whole thing gets absorbed in our heads, the one conclusion here is he said he did let her know about the sponsor video that he would be doing with the direct and the biggest competitor of Tati Westbrook, that is Sugar Bear Hair. But honestly, he shouldn't have agreed to the promotion of that brand in the first place. Tati's brand, All Out Beauty, required James's support. On the other hand, if Tati had been thriving to get James Charles' career to the level at which it is at this moment from the day she met him, if Tati has never left a chance of promoting James Charles' Morph makeup brand anywhere she would go, if Tati has poured all the motivation and inspiration into James Charles, not only when he was extremely scared and low before collaborating with his partners in the brand, but throughout his life, Tati has the right to expect him at least to not support her direct competitor. There was no point in explaining, discussing, or even making a 40-minute long video to answer her Bye Sister video. All she needed is James not supporting her competitors in any way more than him coming and apologizing to her for doing so. Also, can we just focus on the apology he has done within the text? "Mom, I have to text you and tell you that I have to post a Sugar Bear Hair story today. They saved me at Coachella from getting literally mobbed and got me backstage passes." So you're playing in a team. The opponent team helps you get out of the mob. The next day, you go and play in their team? Also, let's just focus on the part, "Mom, I wanted to tell you." Where is the apology? Why did you not ask instead of telling? So honestly, the justification does not make it any better or show you any better. By now, Ariana Grande, Shawn Mendes, and all such celebrities had stopped following him and had removed James Charles from their social media accounts. By the way, do you all know what was the most shocking thing that Tati let out about James? To give you an idea what Tati will be talking about, she is telling us about the explanation that James Charles gave to her after overly flirting with a waiter at her birthday party. How could you flirt with the waiter so much in a public space where everybody else around you is awkward and uncomfortable with your actions? So this is the point where everybody doubts and questions about James Charles' overall over-flirty behavior, especially with the minors, was cleared in their minds. The fog was cleared. This is one of the biggest things about James Charles, that he flirts a little too much with a lot of minors on social media as well as in real life.
Oh, his name is James Charles.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Really? Damn it. Do we need to believe that?
No.
No.
No, James, you know he's the biggest piece of shit in the beauty industry.
Wow,
and he
really?
allegedly has done a lot of horrible things. He admitted to talking to minors. He is a piece
So
of shit.
that is true. I always stay out of the drama.
He did a video allegedly, not allegedly, admitting minors. And I have never really talked or addressed these things, but he is a literal monster.
Wow.
And the fact that he's out there and somehow has a beauty product, I guess, that just came out, and A-list celebrities are promoting this alleged child. Yes, Kim Kardashian, we're talking to you. You're using his makeup, but you didn't care about Balenciaga putting child in their ads anyway. So he is a big problem.
Wow.
And I don't speak on him, but they tried to ruin my career because of all the information I have.
Jeffree had hit James Charles along with the famous celebrities who support him, we know who, and James couldn't run anywhere after this. Also, Jeffree also mentioned James Charles accepting all the allegations. Here is James's video apologizing for all the wrongdoing.
First and foremost, I need to say sorry. I owe a massive apology to anybody that I've hurt or anybody that I've made uncomfortable with my actions. And I also want to say I'm sorry to my friends, family, and fans that have to watch another one of these videos, because you shouldn't have to, and this is really, really embarrassing. When this all started online a few weeks ago, it sparked a large conversation, and many people have shared their thoughts and opinions, and I want to take some time to address literally everything in today's video, but before doing that, I want to make it really, really clear that I fully understand my actions and how they are wrong.
There is a thing called a genuine apology, and in James's case, as far as we know him now, genuine is kind of an antonym, and an apology is done so many times now that even the term has started sounding fake. If ever any film would be made on James, it should be called the fake apology kind. Because what else did he do in his life? Makeup? Oh wait, his brand consists of hazardous chemicals, and the pigmentation on people's skin is then unremovable. In the same year, everyone was hit with a wave of a disease called COVID caused by the coronavirus. While everyone was stuck at their homes in the lockdowns, everybody was trying to try their hands on one or more skills or hobbies. People tried different recipes, fashion styles, and storytelling. So did James Charles. He tried his hands on a trending style where he overdid the makeup, and it turned out to be something like this. People quickly noticed the green-blue eye makeup and the bleeding nose, and many found it deeply offensive. The timing couldn't have been worse. The world was in lockdown, and reports of domestic violence were surging. Victims were trapped in unsafe homes, unable to escape their... So when James decided to post a makeup look that resembled the effects of physical... it hit a very painful nerve. One follower commented, "At a time where domestic violence is through the roof during COVID-19 and victims are forced to remain home with their... you choose to make bodily harm trendy or attractive. Your judgment in doing this is flawed, your sensitivity non-existent, and your vanity undeniable. I've never commented on an influencer's post in a negative way in my life, but for this, you should be ashamed." This comment screams truth and sensibility. As someone with such massive influence and a global following, James had the power and the opportunity to use his platform to uplift people, especially during one of the darkest times in recent history, a time when so many were struggling emotionally, mentally, physically, and financially. James, as a millionaire, may not have felt the pinch of the pandemic the way the rest of the world did, but many of his followers were living in survival mode. That's why, as an influencer, it's crucial to understand your audience, their pain, their reality, their fears. When you have the privilege of millions tuning in, your choices matter. So instead of glamorizing victimization through makeup, you could have chosen to spread positivity, hope, or simply create content that brought comfort. Because honestly, that's what people needed most. But sadly, what we got was just another tone-deaf move that lacked empathy and self-awareness. Let's dive deep into the exploitation of minors now. First of all, there are very strict laws when it comes to the exploitation of minors in any form of the state of America. the person is investigated thoroughly and is taken through harsh punishments and penalties. James Charles has always been safe in spite of doing all the wrongdoings. Here's what Sam, the waiter James was flirting with at Tati's birthday party and had whispered in Tati's ear that he can have sex with Sam even if he is a minor just because he's famous and has got a lot of money.
I'm here today to talk about my past with James Charles. To start off, I've been anonymously mentioned in 2 separate videos, one being the Bi Sister Tati video, and the other being the Nikita Dragon X's video. But today I'm really only going to focus on the Tati video. So in Tati's video, she said she was disgusted by James' actions towards me, the waiter, in a restaurant in Seattle. So I'm about to tell my story, including all the details and direct messages between me and James. To start off, him and about 32 other people all came into the fancy restaurant that I was working in, and they were all there for Tati's birthday. And Tati and her husband came in and they helped set up the big table and everything, so we knew that they were coming. And at that time I really didn't know who James Charles was. I recognized his face, but I didn't know who he was. So when he came in with everyone, it was kind of a big surprise. So when he came into the restaurant, I noticed him and his kind of entourage with Jeffree Star, him, so Jeffree Star, James Charles, and all of Tati's family was there at my restaurant. And throughout the night, James and his friend and everyone, they just kept looking at me, but especially James. And he was looking at me. Later on that night, he started talking to the other employees about me, asking me if I had a Valentine. This was on Valentine's Day. And he kept asking the waiters if I was single and that they thought I was very attractive. Or he especially thought that I was very attractive and he wanted to get my phone number and all that. But the wait staff at my restaurant didn't let that happen. He left and it kind of just went untalked about. The next day, my sister convinced me to direct message James Charles, and I did. We can throw the screenshot up here somewhere in post. I said, LOL, it's Sam, the busser from John Howie. John Howie's the restaurant that we worked at. He replied with OMFG, and then I replied with LMAO. Then he asked me how I was, and then you can kind of read here, he's like, sorry about last night, you're very attractive. And then I responded with, it's all good, very flattering actually. And he said, love that, did not know you were 19, oh my god, I am too. We proceeded to talk for a while. It was his last night in Seattle. He actually invited me out to his hotel. At that time, I was bi-curious. I had never done anything with a guy before, and I was curious. Later that night, he invited me out to his hotel room. When I got there, in the video, he said I was brought up by 4 security guards, but in reality, I was brought up by 1 concierge. But besides that, I get to the hotel room, we say hi, it's all fine. We end up watching a movie, and after that movie, he asked to kiss me. And I was very nervous, because I had never done anything with a guy, and I was bi-curious, so I said yes. And we ended up making out for around an hour, and if I'm being honest, he's the worst kisser I've ever kissed. Way too much tongue. Yeah, but besides that, so he didn't want me to leave from the hotel room, and he kept telling me to stay, like, please stay, don't leave me, all this and that, but I really wanted to go home. So I left, and throughout the following weeks, we kept in contact, and my birthday was coming up on the 22nd, and he wanted to fly me out to LA. And that kind of freaked me out, because at that point, I was pretty sure I was straight. So I told him in a long text message that I am straight, and that if he were to fly me out, I wouldn't think it was right if I wasn't attracted to him, but if he still wanted to fly me out as friends, I gave that as an option to him. So he declined my offer and canceled the flight, and that's when he got really sad and emotional. He took to social media, and his response to me was that he didn't think that I was straight. He told me, "You're not straight." Like, I'll throw up the DM conversation right here. And we kind of stopped talking after that for a little bit, and then he came back to me. He asked me for closure. After he called me for the closure conversation, he offered to fly me out again, and I declined. Because I didn't want to use him for his money or his fame. I thought that that was wrong, and that's what everyone was telling me, that it would have been wrong to go out there if I wasn't actually feeling the same way that he was. So I declined for the second time the trip to LA. He still went on to say he thought I was bisexual or gay and attracted to him when I had told him different. That pretty much went on for a long time until we kind of ended it at, "I'm legitimately not feeling anything, please stop talking to me," this and that. So in this screenshot, it shows him telling me how I felt, and luckily I screenshotted it because later on he went on to delete and unsend those messages, knowing he was in the wrong and he was guilty. So those messages in the live conversation aren't there anymore. Not only was he telling me how I felt, telling me that I was bisexual, but he was also at the same time talking to Gage. And I found this out after Gage released his video explaining his side of the story with James. And then I was just done with him. I didn't want to have anything to do with him after that, after finding out that he was kind of playing two straight guys at the same time. So we have footage of him admitting to it on FaceTime that he was in fact talking to me and Gage at the same time.
Sure, what's up?
I'm just gonna jump straight into it. So I just kind of watched the Gage thing.
Yeah.
And I kind of, in all honesty, I think you were talking to him at the same time you were talking to me.
Yeah, we were. It's why do you care?
It's just, how would you feel if I was talking to and hanging out with someone else while you were talking to me, right?
You probably were.
I wasn't. Well, thank you for listening to my side of the story and to hear what I had to say about James Charles. This isn't intended for me to get clout from this video. I don't really care, to be honest. I just wanted to kind of share my side of the story now that everyone's kind of opening up and give some more information to everyone. So thank you for listening.
So we clearly saw James pursuing Sam even after knowing that he was straight, not bi. Sam openly mentioned that James invited him to the hotel, even booked flights for him, which pretty much confirms everything Tati said earlier, that James believed he could get with any guy just because he's famous and has money. Sam also mentioned that James was the worst kisser, cue the awkward background music, but that's not exactly the headline for today. What is important, though, is James's own admission that while he was talking to Sam, he was also talking to Gage. Now, let's be fair, there's nothing wrong with someone exploring polyamory or keeping options open if that's communicated honestly. The issue here is that James never told either of them, and that in simple terms is called cheating. So what's the takeaway? Whether it's friends or fans, content or boyfriends, business or personal life, James Charles has repeatedly shown a pattern of dishonesty, manipulation, and betrayal. No matter the role he plays, influencer, partner, collaborator, he somehow always ends up playing the same part, the cheater. And here's the most ironic thing that James Charles has attempted in his life.
Take this from me because I've had to deal with this. As an influencer, when you grow a following, you will either say or do something that people might not like and might not agree with, and eventually, you might have to apologize. So for today's compact challenge, you guys will be filming your very own apology videos.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, you heard that right. James Charles is literally teaching people how to apologize. Because let's be honest, that's basically what he's done his entire life. He messes up again and again and then tries to fix it with one of his classic "I'm sorry" performances. Let's break it down. Point number 1, James Charles is teaching people how to make an apology video. Isn't that hilarious and iconic in itself? A man who starts his apology with "I didn't want to do this, but since I was forced to, I'll apologize for my actions" is now some kind of apology guru. Really? This is the same guy who has perfected the art of the non-apology. The same guy who adds long-ass explanations, dramatic sighs, and follow-up tweets just to say why he didn't really think he needed to apologize in the first place. Like, hello? Isn't this the same fake apology king we've all been talking about? And what's even more shocking is, why are people actually listening to him? Which brings us to point number 2. Why do creators even need to learn how to apologize in the first place? Wouldn't it make a lot more sense to just not screw up? How about not hurting people, not lying, and not trampling over basic morals and ethics? That would save a lot more time than learning to fake an apology on camera. But let's be real, if you need lessons in how to apologize as a creator, that means you're already planning to mess up. And James, you've made it your brand. There are literally entire videos online breaking down how fake your apology videos are, and now you're offering masterclasses in the art of guilt? No thanks, we'll pass. Another thing to point out here is this. Apology, gratitude, anger, these are emotions, not scripted performances. They're feelings you possess within yourself, and it's completely up to you how and when to express them. But the key is, they need to be genuine. These emotions should come out naturally, not as a rehearsed act in front of a ring light and a trending thumbnail. An apology only holds value when it's felt, not when it's forced or staged. And yet, when every other person under your comment box is calling you out for delivering another fake, robotic apology, what do? Instead of self-reflection, you start teaching the same disingenuous tactics to other upcoming influencers. Really? You're not guiding them, you're infecting the next generation of creators with a mindset of manipulation over accountability. And here's a bigger question. Shouldn't platforms like YouTube take action against individuals who've been repeatedly involved in scandals, shown zero growth, and refused to take even 1% of responsibility for the damage they've caused? Because let's be honest, if creators like James Charles continue to exploit emotions, dodge consequences, and still thrive on platforms meant to inspire and entertain, then the system is clearly broken. What message are we sending to the audience and the new creators? That faking remorse is more important than actually being remorseful? It's time for accountability, not algorithms that reward drama over decency. Now, it is high time we discuss the worst possible thing James Charles has done in his entire life. And that has shook the internet. Let's deep dive into James Charles' controversy/scandal with Kayla Malec. This is the story of Kayla Malec, who is a YouTuber and influencer growing on various social media platforms. Her YouTube is filled with amazing content and around 1.84 million subscribers. Her Instagram is beautifully decorated with engaging content and has around 774,000 followers. And her TikTok is super entertaining and has around 17.1 million followers. But recently, all her social media is filled with content where she speaks about her abusive relationship with Evan Johnson, who's been recently arrested by the police. Let's check what exactly he's done and what is James Charles' role in this scandal.
I'm trying not to cry right in the first 5 minutes. For the past 9 months, I have been in arguably one of the worst mentally, physically relationships I could ever imagine. Something I never thought that I would be experiencing, things I've only seen on TV, things that I've heard stories about, and things that I just knew I would never let happen to me. And I've been going through it for the past 9 months. This is probably one of the hardest things I've had to talk about in my life. There's not a single person in my life that knows the full story. There's not, my parents don't know, my sister doesn't know, my best friends don't know.
nobody knows the true extent of what I was put through. And I ask the universe every day, why me? Like, why did I go through this? Like, why me? Why was I put through this? Why me? And I truly think that it's to help other people. I think I was put in this position to not share my story, but to share yours. At the end of the day, this isn't about me. This is such a bigger picture to what millions of women go through. This is not my story. This is your story. This is not about me. This is about you. This is about us as people. And I hope that this can help somebody, because honestly, I don't want to cry. If 6 months ago I had seen a video like this, I would have saved my life. It would have saved my life. I would have. If my best friend was not home for 2 of these times, I would not have up the next morning. By the hands of somebody who looked me in the eyes and said they loved me and cared about me and would never hurt me. I would not be sitting here today if I had stayed and if my best friend didn't come into that room. I wouldn't be here today, and that's genuinely why I'm doing this. I'm doing this because I never want anybody to ever have to experience something like this. I just moved to California with my best friend Emma, and we were living our life single, and she ends up meeting somebody, and he has a friend, and they were like, you guys should come down to Nashville for Memorial Weekend, like it'll be so fun, like we can all hang out, you know, little boat weekend. And at this time, I wasn't looking for a relationship. I had actually just gotten out of a 3-year relationship, like almost a year before this, not even, maybe, it doesn't matter, like 7 months before this. I just was really enjoying the single life. Like I remember not wanting to date anybody. So I was going into this as like, oh, hang out for the weekend up, and then I'll never talk to him again. Like that was my mindset 100%. So I'm FaceTiming this guy for about a week. And then I end up booking a flight, and I fly down to Nashville with my best friend. But we spent 4 days together, and it was just great. And I, near the end of the trip, had caught in feelings when I didn't want to. But I just genuinely fell head over heels for this guy. He was just like this fratty, like, the best way to describe him, he was just like this frat guy, you know? And he didn't care about anybody, but for some reason he cared about me. And it made me feel like the most special person in the room. Like, knowing that he could have anybody he wanted, and he would tell me these stories of how he had over 100 bodies and he was just this player and da-da-da, but oh, he's sitting here with me on this houseboat, you know, he's posting me on his story.
So, Kayla and Evan had been talking and flirting over FaceTime in a pretty casual, lighthearted way. Things felt fun, flirty, and exciting, the kind of energy you usually get at the beginning of something new. Kayla, feeling hopeful and excited, planned a trip with her best friend and flew out just to meet Evan and spend some quality time together. So far, it all seemed bubbly, sweet, and like the start of something real. That dreamy honeymoon phase every relationship begins with. Kayla genuinely believed she was special to Evan, and from her side, it felt like things were really taking off. But here's the real question. Did she fall for Evan head over heels in such a short time? Or was this the beginning of something far more complicated and painful than she ever expected? Let's peel back the layers and see what really went down next.
A huge factor before this, off topic, I'm gonna pause this here, I was just in a very fragile state during this time because about a month prior to this, about 2 months prior to this, I had found out I was pregnant, and I had to go through and it was one of the most traumatizing things in my life, and that is not what this story is about. But I was just very fragile because that was my last experience with a guy, was getting pregnant, having an abortion, going through it alone, and just all this shit. So I was just like in a very fragile state, and I'm not trying to like pity myself here. I'm just like honestly saying like the fact that this guy was just making me feel the way he did just felt 10 times better than it normally would have, because I was just like so fragile. And I remember the first day I met him, like I told him all that stuff. I was like, I just went through it. I'm going through a lot of shit. And we just sat there and cried to each other. And I don't know. Moral of the story, I just fell head over heels for this guy. So after about 4 days, we end up flying from Nashville back to California.
Here, she's explained it why. So now we know that Kayla was in her most vulnerable and fragile state of mind when she first met Evan.
Once I flew down, I got my hair done, everything to look all good for him. I get down there and it's like the sparks are even bigger this time. He picked us up. I had gotten us an Airbnb. We spent the whole weekend just same thing, cliff jumping, swimming, just having a good weekend because he didn't know how long he was going to be going to jail for it, or if he was going to be going to jail, and I didn't know either, and I had really caught feelings for him. So then Sunday comes around, or Monday, I'm not sure exactly what day it was. He had his court hearing, and so I go to court with him, and they sentence him to 22 days, and then he's free, he's out. So I gave him a hug, and we went back home. He had like a few hours before he had to turn himself in. We took a nap, and I told him I was gonna wait for him, and that I would answer every time he called me on the jail phone, whatever. And he was like, that's fine, cool, deal. I'll see you when I'm out. So he ends up going to jail. I fly back home to California that night, and I am just like so upset. I'm like, dude, this guy that I really like is in jail. Which honestly was probably the universe's way of being like,
Kayla was devastated when Evan ended up in jail. But what's shocking is she didn't even stop to ask herself the basic questions. Why was he arrested? Is he even worth my time, my love, or my future? She didn't question whether he deserved her trust, her care, or the kind of devotion she was pouring into the relationship. In Kayla's heart, everything felt perfect. The love she felt was inexplicable, powerful, maybe even blinding. She'd convinced herself that what they shared was real, untouchable. But then, where did it all go wrong? What was the first red flag that she brushed under the rug? What was the warning bell she chose to silence? The alarm she ignored, thinking it was just a temporary glitch in something beautiful? Sometimes love makes you blind, but denial makes you deaf to the screams of truth. And for Kayla, those screams were getting louder. She just didn't know it yet.
22 days goes by pretty fast, and I end up booking a flight down so that I can be there to pick him up from jail. So I fly down to Nashville, and one of his friends picks me up from the airport, and we are driving to the jail to go pick him up. We get there, he comes out, everything's good, gives me a big hug, and I'm just like so happy, you know? He's free! So we end up staying at his friend's house, and my friend Emma ends up flying down that night to Tennessee to hang out with us. And so it's all of us at the place again. And so this was June 24th is the day that he was let out of jail, and I picked him up and flew down and all of that at once. And this was the first time that he had shown me a quite visible red flag that I chose to ignore. So that day we kind of just are drinking and hanging out. We go out to dinner, and, you know, things are fine. And we end up going back to the house, and we're laying in bed talking, and he looks at me and he's like, "You my best friend." And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he just goes on this whole rant, and he's like crying to me and getting very like vocally up. And at this point in my life, I had never even been called by a past relationship. I had never been called a single name by a past relationship. I had never had a man honestly talk to me in any type of like necessarily disrespectful way. Like a man had never calling me like a nothing to my face ever.
Your love partner calls you a bitch after you've been the one talking to them while they were behind bars, flying across states just to celebrate their freedom and openly expressing your love for them? Insane. That moment right there was the red flag Kayla should never have ignored. She must have been shocked, completely taken aback by Evan's sudden aggression, but instead of pulling away, she likely tried to rationalize it. Maybe she told herself it was just anxiety, or the stress of coming out of jail, or emotions running high. And so Kayla did what many people in toxic relationships do. She decided to be the mature one. She took a step back, calmed herself down, and tried to hold the relationship together with patience and empathy, even though it was already falling apart. But here's the thing. When someone shows you disrespect, especially after everything you've done for them, that's not love. That's not anxiety. That's a preview of who they really are. So what happened next? Let's unravel the next layer of this disturbing relationship.
He's like, I'm down. So I end up booking him a plane ticket to California, the both of us, and we fly down to California for the 4th of July. We get there on July 3rd, I'm pretty sure, and get home, go to bed, and then it's 4th of July, and I'd been invited to this house party that I was really excited to go to. It was with a bunch of other influencers and people I knew, people in my circle of work and what I do, and people that I am friends with. So I was excited to introduce them to people. I thought it was gonna be fun. So we pregame, we Uber to this house party. It's like a Darty day party. And we get there, and I'm saying hi to everybody and introducing him to my friends. He's being fun. He's talking to everybody. And I just like give him a hug and a kiss. And I'm like, thank you for like being cool. Like, you're actually like a fun time. Like, people are like liking you. Like, this is awesome. And he's like, yeah, of course. Like, whatever, babe. And so I end up getting pretty belligerent this night. It was 4th of July. And towards the middle of the night, this one guy comes up to me. And we're talking by the pool. And mind you, my boyfriend at the time, was sitting like right next to me. And I'm talking to this guy. And I'm just talking to him about how I met my boyfriend and how he had just gotten out of jail and how much I like him. And it's scary because I've only known him for about a month and a half and all this and that. And so my boyfriend is watching this. And instead of, this was his first time doing something like this. He looks at this and me talking to this guy, and he immediately thinks, oh, she wants to f him. And starts going up to all of my friends at this party and other influencers at this party, who I know, and goes up to them and is like, do you see that that blonde girl over there? Yeah, that's my girlfriend. She's a any guy here. Is going from guy to guy to guy at this party of people that I know, going, oh yeah, you see that girl? Yeah, she's my girlfriend. She's a don't you think she's a?
So you're in a new relationship. Things are supposed to feel exciting, hopeful, and you finally decide to introduce your partner to your friends. And what does he say? He tells them he sees you as a whore. Seriously? That's not just disturbing. It's disgusting, degrading, and completely unacceptable in any relationship. No matter the context, no matter the tone, there's zero excuse for a comment like that. This wasn't a joke. It was a reflection of how Evan truly viewed Kayla beneath the surface. And yet again, despite the shock, the pain, and the embarrassment, Kayla ignored it. She brushed off the second loud, blaring alarm the universe threw at her. Why? Because when you love someone, you want to believe they'll change. You hold on to the hope that the person you fell for will resurface even when all signs scream otherwise. But some people don't change. They reveal who they are slowly, painfully, one red flag at a time.
Just embarrassing. So I tried to make things right, and it was 4th of July, and I was like, hey, how about we go Uber to where was it? Long Beach. I was like, let's Uber to Long Beach. I heard there's a fireworks show. He's like, I don't want to go. I was like, can we please go? Like, it's 4th of July. Basically, I have to drag him to this Uber. I spent like $150 on this Uber because Long Beach is really far away. And we get there, and we get to Long Beach, and we had missed the fireworks show. It was too late. We missed it by like 30 minutes. And he's very mad at me at this point, and I don't think I had seen him this mad before throughout my time of knowing him. So I'm just like, I'm sorry, like, you know, I don't understand what I did wrong. Like, I really am confused. Like, you know, aren't relationships about communication? You should have communicated that you're uncomfortable. I don't know what I did wrong. So we just end up getting into an argument, and I'm like standing on the sidewalk, and on the sidewalk, there's like the sidewalk and then this like channel of seawater, like not like the ocean. Well, yeah, the ocean, but it's like channel water, like disgusting channel water. It's in Long Beach. And I'm standing, and I'm like, all right, if you're so mad, just push me in, obviously joking. He pushes me into this ocean, this channel of dirty water, fully clothed. People are literally like staring. They see him push me in, and I'm just sitting there like in shock. It was just so disgusting. I was soaking wet. I get out of the water, and he had the split second of feeling bad, and then he jumped in the water full enclosed, and he was like, I'm sorry, like I didn't think about it. And I'm like, what the hell?
He literally pushed Kayla into a channel of dirty water. At this point, it should have been the final cutoff. Not just a red flag, this was a flashing siren, screaming, run. This time it was more than just unacceptable, it was unbearable. Evan seemed to be spiraling into the depths of his own dark ego. Or maybe there was some deep-seated disorder at play, because no normal person behaves like this. No decent human treats someone they claim to love in such a humiliating and dehumanizing way. And this wasn't a one-time incident. Kayla was verbally and exploited in front of others, time and time again. There was a night Evan called her while dead drunk, surrounded by his friends, and within seconds, he went from laughing to screaming, calling Kayla and a in front of everyone. And you know what's even worse? They laughed. They giggled. The people around him found it funny. That's how normalized and twisted this environment had become. But Kayla? She ended up sobbing all night, torn apart by a pain that no one around him even bothered to acknowledge. And unfortunately, there were many more incidents just like this. Let's take a breath, and now brace ourselves, because we're about to dive into the part of the story where Evan didn't just hurt Kayla emotionally or verbally, he began to physically abuse her.
But he was just getting very agitated and angry and aggressive. And you know, it's kind of scary. I'm 5'4" and he's 6-something, and we'll always talk about how he can break somebody's nose and how he's curb stomped people before, and he's just getting very aggressive and angry, and I'm just like, please calm down, please calm down. Once again, I can't really remember what set him off. But he was intoxicated. So that's when he's like, I'm gonna go, I'm leaving. And I was like, where are you going? And I see him grab his keys, and he goes downstairs towards his car. So I chase after him because I didn't want him to drunk drive, like he was gonna kill himself, you know, like he was so drunk and angry, like he was going to kill himself or get arrested. Like I obviously didn't want that to happen. So I run downstairs after him, and at this point he's getting in his car, and I get in the passenger seat, and I have the door open and my feet on the pavement, and I'm like, please do not go anywhere, please do not go anywhere. And I don't know if I grabbed the keys, or I don't know what had happened. But he ends up getting really like mad about not being able to drive his car, or me not wanting him to go. I'm not sure what it was. And he looks at me and he balls up his fist. And this was my first time ever seeing him like this. And he balls up his fist. He looks at me like this. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like I was like, what the and he like looks at me, he goes like this, like, you know, like he was gonna hit me, turns around and punches his windshield so hard that it completely shatters his entire car windshield, because I did not want him to drink and drive. And I remember sitting there after he did that, and I closed the car door and like slid down onto the pavement, and I just started sobbing because I was like, he almost just hit me. he almost just hit me. Like, he almost just socked me in the face, but last second decided to, like, punch his car windshield and completely shattered it. Then I remember being like, I shouldn't be scared of the person I love. Like, why did he just, like, it, like, in that moment, it was like a wire in my brain had just been, like, snipped. Like seeing that much anger come from him and, like, making me that scared. I was sitting there, I can't even, I can't explain, like, what I felt. I was like, he almost just socked me in the face. And now he just busted his entire car windshield. I'll include a picture of that. The only picture that I can find right now is when we had put in a golf ball on top of it to make it look like a golf ball had hit it for, like, Snapchat clickbait. Because he didn't want us to tell anybody about what had actually happened, about him punching it instead of punching me in the face. So we told everybody, his family, my family, anybody that set up on my Snapchat, that I'm pretty sure, like, a golf ball hit it or a rock hit it or something. But no, in reality, he had punched his windshield because he wanted to hit me so bad, but didn't.
This is where the physical almost began. Evan didn't hit Kayla, not yet, because he came dangerously close. In a sudden outburst of rage, he ended up smashing his own windshield instead. Let that sink in. When everything seemed to be moving somewhat calmly after all the verbal, all the emotional manipulation, when Kayla was still clinging to hope, he just snapped. Why? Why would someone explode like that out of nowhere? It was an insane act of aggression, one that showed just how much unresolved darkness was festering inside him. This wasn't a one-off moment of stress or frustration. This was a pattern, a build-up, a ticking time bomb finally beginning to detonate. And what's truly awful is that Kayla was still there, trying to make sense of it all, trying to believe in the man she once thought loved her. But things were only getting worse from here. Let's move on to the next horrifying incident, because, unfortunately, Evan's descent into physical didn't stop at a broken windshield.
And then text girls. So at this point, whenever things would start up, I would just take his phone because he would do things like that, and I just didn't like it. But the Uber was already on the way home, and maybe it wasn't the smartest thing to take his phone, but the Uber was on the way home. I had paid for it. So I get out of the Uber, and I have his phone, I have my phone, and I walk to this the bar that we had just left. And mind you, I don't know anybody in Nashville besides him, so I have nobody to call, I have nobody to text, I have nobody to help me in this situation. Like, my boyfriend had just called me and slapped me in the face in the back of an Uber, so I'm kind of in shock. And I walk up to the security at Honky Tonk, and I just start crying to them. And then I realize, and I'm like, oh, I can't tell them that my boyfriend did that to me. So I just tell them about the situation that I was going through with my dad and just start crying about that. And they're like, okay, well, we'll listen, but girl, call an Uber home. So I call another Uber, and then I'm like, oh my God, what if my boyfriend got out of the car and he's looking for me? So I get out of that Uber and I start running down the street to Broadway looking for him. And I'm like, oh my God, where is he? Where is he? Like, what if he left the Uber? What if he got out of the Uber? Like, what if something bad happened? And I can't find him. So at this point, I just stand on the corner of this bar and I just start sobbing. And this group of guys comes up to me and they're like, hey, are you okay? And mind you, they're in their like 30s or 40s. Me like having to justify just people being decent human beings, just, I can't, anyways, but they were like 30, 40 before anybody's like, you, because I just think everybody, sorry. And they come up to me and they're like, are you okay? And I'm just sobbing. And I'm like, my boyfriend just slapped me in the face. And he's like, what? And I'm like, my boyfriend just slapped me in the face and called me a slut. So I got out of the Uber, like, I have his phone, like, I'm in shock right now. And he's like, you can't go back there. And I'm like, I don't know anybody else here. And this group of guys are just like, you can't go back there. And I'm like, I have to, like, all my stuff's there. Like, I don't know anybody else here. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And so I end up calling an Uber on my phone, my third Uber. And I'm like, I have to go, I'm sorry. And so I end up telling this group of guys. They stayed with me until my Uber got there, and I'm just kind of sobbing to them about what had happened. And the Uber gets there, and I get in the Uber, and the guy goes up to the Uber driver. He like leans over the window, and he's like, do not let that girl go back to her boyfriend's house. Like, he's gonna hit her, he's gonna kill her. And I remember being like, I have to go back there. So I look at the Uber driver and I'm like, drive, he's crazy. And the Uber driver drives off. And why did I do that? Like, why did I sit here and like, I don't know. I didn't know anybody else. I don't know. I think if I would have known what would have happened later that night, I wouldn't have gotten in that Uber, and I would have listened to those guys, and I would have booked myself a hotel and went back in the morning. But I didn't, because I didn't know that people were capable of taking things this far at this point. I knew what he was capable of, and I knew what he was capable of, but not that he would ever do it to me. You know, like, who does that to their girlfriend? Like, you hear about people getting beat in movies and on the news and in documentaries, and why would that happen to me? Why would it, you know? So I end up getting back home about an hour after him. And I know this because we had talked about it later on, but I get back about an hour after him. And I walk in the front door, and he's leaned over the toilet just barfing. And I'll never, ever, ever forget the look in his eyes when I walked in that door. I walk in, and he's leaned over like this. And when I walk in the room, he goes, like, this is gonna look dumb, but he like looked up at me with like his eyes wide like this. And like, there was no soul in his eyes. They were empty. And I remember my biggest compliment for him, like when I had first started to get him, is that he had these puppy dog eyes. You know, they were full of soul and light and happiness and joy. And after this day, his eyes stayed hollow and lifeless and soulless. But his eyes just, I can't even explain the look in his eyes. I can't explain it. And he looks up at me, and he stands up, and he goes, "You stupid, where the f were you?" And I'm like, you slapped me in the face in the Uber. What the f was I gonna do? Sit there and like sit next to you? Like, I'm not gonna sit in a 20-minute Uber ride back home after you just slapped me in the face. Like, what the f wrong with you? And so he's like, I know you were somebody. I'm like, you have my location. Like, here's your phone. Go check my Life 360 track. Like, I stayed on Broadway. I was at Honky Tonk the whole time crying to these people about how you just slapped me in the face. Well, I was telling him that I told people that he slapped me in the face, but in reality, I only told one person that he slapped me in the face, and that I did tell the, doesn't matter, but I told the Honky Tonk people that my dad was going through things and what our issues were, but I told one guy, the group of guys, that my boyfriend had slapped me in the face. But I was like, I was literally just crying about what had happened. And he's like, do you understand that, like, when you jumped out of the Uber, I jumped out after you, couldn't find you, had to pull out $80 cash to go give somebody to take me home. And I'm like, then why'd you slap me in the face? Like, he sat there and he was trying to like twist it. He's like, no, this is your fault. Like, you made me spend $80 to go home. And I'm like, you slapped your girlfriend in the face and called me a was I supposed to sit in the Uber with you that I paid for? What the is wrong with you? So he sits there and he's twisting it, and he's like, no, you just made me spend $80 on an Uber home, whatever. And so we just start arguing, and I'm just like, do you not see what you did wrong? Like, apologize to me. And so things are just heating up, and he's calling me names, and we're arguing, and I'm just in shock that he is standing on slapping me in the face. And at this point, he punches me in the face. Oh my God. He punches me in the face. It starts just going.
This should have been the end of the relationship. From the very first day Kayla helped Evan get out of jail, he's been nothing but toxic and abusive. He's called her a slut, a whore, and constantly thrown delusional, baseless allegations at her. He's displayed violent behavior repeatedly. He almost punched her once, but ended up shattering a windshield in a fit of rage. And now, he actually punched her. Right in the face. Let that sink in. At this point, it's not just an unhealthy relationship. It's plain and simple. And Kayla deserved so much better. That is a crime. Nobody's allowed to do any kind of physical violence, and that thing has got a big, big penalty and punishment. At this point, Kayla must have lost all the hope, faith, and love that she had all these days for Evan. There are various such incidences coming up where Kayla explains what all happened with her next. It is scary, horrifying, but blood-boiling story to listen to. But we gotta get to the root of it and then know what James Charles had to do with this whole thing. Let's move on.
So we get out of like the outside wash and we pull up to the vacuums and it's completely empty. And we're just sitting in the car and he's like, wash my car. And I look at him and I go, what the f-? Like, why are you talking to me like this? Like, you have no right to talk to me like this. And he's like, no, you're gonna wash my car. You're gonna do it when I wasn't with you. You're gonna do it when you're with me. If you could do it without me, you could do it with me. And starts just being like, get out of my car and wash it. Like, get on your hands and knees and wash my car. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, what are you talking about? And I had this on video. He grabs my hair like this, yanks it like this, and then slams my head on the window. And he's like, get the out of my car and wash it. So at that point, I open the door and I'm just scream sobbing at this point. I'm just sobbing. And I grab the vacuum. I get on my hands and knees and I'm just vacuuming his car. And he's sitting there laughing at me. And he's like, yeah, make sure you get it all. Like, you wanted to wash my car so bad, you're gonna do it with me here. So I'm sitting there washing it, and he ends up going to his friend who's working. And he's like, yeah, can you believe this? Like, she wanted to wash my car while I wasn't with her. So I'm like, okay, wash it now. Like, telling him the whole situation. And his friend's sitting there laughing about it. And I'm just on my knees in this car wash, vacuuming it, sobbing. And so after like 5 minutes, I'm just like, okay, I'm done. Like, I'm done. And he's like, no, you're not. Like, you wanted to wash my car, do it. So we're there for 30 minutes. And I'm forced there to just vacuum his car because I offered to wash his car while he was at work.
Evan Kayla in front of his friends, forcing her to wash his car while aggressively banging her head against it. Let's just quickly check the possible repercussions that one could have for committing such crime in America. Domestic violence laws in the U.S. In the United States, domestic violence is a serious crime with strict legal consequences. It includes physical, emotional, verbal, or psychological committed by a current or former partner or family member. Laws vary by state, but most classify severe cases of domestic violence as felonies, especially when there's physical harm or repeated. Convicted offenders may face jail time ranging from 1 year to life, restraining orders, mandatory counseling, and loss of custody or gun rights. The law also empowers victims to seek protective orders, emergency housing, and support services. No form of is acceptable, and the law is meant to protect and empower survivors. And another time. Take a deep breath. You're going to need it. Yes, Evan physically assaulted Kayla not once, not twice, but 3 times that we know of. First, he slapped her, then he punched her in the face and banged her head against a car, and if that wasn't horrifying enough, he kicked her with full force during a vacation that Kayla had paid for herself. It's not just crazy, it's sickening, insane, and absolutely terrifying. It leaves goosebumps on the skin of anyone who hears this, because the violence wasn't random, it was calculated, it was deliberate, and worst of all, it was repeated. The relationship spiraled into a pit of aggression, fear, and pure. And the heartbreaking part? There were many more violent incidents that Kayla never even spoke about. Not because they didn't hurt, but because she still believed that someday, somehow, things would get better. That Evan would turn back into the man she fell in love with. That the love she gave would one day be returned. But that was a delusion. The reality was far darker. The mess didn't just stay messy, it became a nightmare. And just when it couldn't get worse, it did. Because then came James Charles. Yes, the internet's favorite glam guru, the controversy king, the man with millions of followers and an even larger ego, walked right into the middle of this abusive storm. So now, let's take a closer look. What was James Charles's role in Kayla Malec and Evan Johnson's abusive, toxic relationship? Why did he, of all people, stand by a man who caused this much harm? Let's uncover the truth. No filters, no glam, just facts.
But this all starts almost immediately when I made me and Evan's relationship public on TikTok. So I had posted a video with Evan next to me, and me and James have never DM'd on TikTok. The only previous messages we had on TikTok was us collab posting from when we would film together when I started my Glow Up series, like I was just talking about. And he like sends me my video. I don't know how you do it. Like, he sent me the video, and then under it he said, "Girl, who is this?" And I was like, "Oh, this new guy that I met. I think I'm in love. Ha 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 ha." Then a month and a half later, he slides up on another video of me and Evan together. We have not DM'd on TikTok since this. And it's a video of us dancing together at Yosemite, and James slides up and says, "Girl, he's so hot." And I'm just like, haha, yeah, whatever, cool. So at that point, that's like the only time that we would text was about him saying how hot Evan was, which is like, whatever, I didn't care. I didn't think anything of it, whatever.
Why would you do that? Why would you not directly compliment the guy if you found him hot? Also, knowing that Kayla was in a relationship with Evan, he found texting Kayla how hot Evan was and how attractive he found him. Mad. Let's jump back on the video.
So fast forward to October, and me, Evan, Emma, and Brennan all get invited to a birthday party. We get there, and lo and behold, James is there. And Evan and James have not met at this point, obviously. The only thing that's been said is how hot James thinks Evan is, which is like, fine, whatever. So I see James, I say hi to him, and I introduce them to each other. And they're just talking for a fat minute. I don't know what really they were talking about. I wasn't really in the conversation. I was talking to Lila. I was talking to my other friends. I wasn't really in the conversation. And I don't know how accurate this is. I was not listening to the conversation. But Evan did tell me after that James was just saying how Evan was the hottest guy at the bar and he was the hottest guy there. I don't know how true that is. I don't know. But that's what I was told James was saying, is just how hot he was. And once again, I brush it off. Haha, funny, whatever. Like, whatever. Like, I don't care, you know? So then, 2 months after that, I get another DM from James. On December 17th, I posted a video of us at Hawaii together. And James, once again, our only DMs is him once again being like, "Oh my God, he's so beautiful." So literally, the only DMs we have in the past year is him saying how hot my boyfriend is. Cool, whatever. Just like, what the, like, looking at this now, what the
How can someone being a public figure not have a pinch of maturity?
Now from December, it's January. And me, Brennan, Emma, and my boyfriend are in Hawaii. And this was the trip that we ended up breaking up, and all of that happened. It's about the third night that we're there, and I don't know if I'm allowed to include this. I'm going to anyways, but we're all sitting on the balcony of our Airbnb talking, and Evan starts saying that James is DMing him on Instagram. And immediately I'm like, what the f are you doing? Why are you DMing James? Like, immediately I'm just like, no, like, you're not gonna do that. That's weird in my opinion. And at this point, our relationship was basically already over. And even Brennan was like, and Emma were like, what the f are you doing? Why are you DMing him on Instagram? So we look over at the phone, and Evan sends James a picture on Instagram. So, like, you know how you snap on Snapchat? Like, doing that on Instagram, like sending pictures back and forth. And Evan is like, you should go to Hawaii with us. And James sends back this saying, like, why should I come to Hawaii? And that, for the first time, is when I was like, what the f? And I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure they continued to text throughout the night. I was not, like, caring enough to go through his phone. I was just like, why are you messaging him? And I just, red flags. It was just so weird. Because mind you, at this point, me and James don't text. Like, me and James aren't even texting like that. James is only texting me to say how hot he is. And now he's sending him snaps over Instagram saying, why should I come to Hawaii? So fast forward, literally 2 weeks past this, me and Evan have broken up. And literally the day after we break up, James texts me. And he basically is asking me and Evan to be a part of this painted commercial video. And it was supposed to be like me and Evan, and it was like a couple thing, and it was for Valentine's Day. So I respond, and I'm like, hey, I'm sorry, but we just broke up, ha ha ha. I text James that we have broken up, and basically the first thing he says in response is, can I have him now?
Insane! A girl opens up to you, tells you she just had to break up with her abusive boyfriend, and the only thing you can come up with is, can I have him now? Seriously, were you waiting for this moment to pounce? You're not just some random person on the internet, James. You're an influencer, a public figure, someone that millions of young people look up to as a supposed symbol of success, creativity, and self-expression. You've got an entire show on your channel where people come in as contestants, hoping to learn something meaningful from you. They come for inspiration, for guidance, and this is the kind of example you set? You hear about a toxic relationship, a girl going through pain, and instead of showing empathy, instead of standing in solidarity, you joke about wanting that same man who hurt her. That's not just immature, it's morally repulsive. And let's be honest, this is not the kind of influence the world needs. James, if you can't take responsibility for your words or respect the emotional boundaries of others, then maybe it's time to step down from calling yourself a mentor. Because mentors don't mock pain, they protect people from it.
I explained that we broke up, I was gonna do a 30-part series. And mind you, he is the only person that I told, because this is a day after we officially broke up, he is the only person I told about a, quote, 30-part series that I was gonna film about what I went through. He goes, what? I go, girl, he's crazy. And then there we go. What happened? Can I have him now? Once again, didn't really think much of it, but my senses were a little bit heightened now after the whole Hawaii Instagram DMing situation, but whatever. Then tell him, imagine the worst things a human can do. It would take hours to text, but you'll see this series soon. He then asks again about if I'm actually doing a series, which I'll explain why that has a lot to do with more going on. But he asks again about the series, then says, I'm sorry. And I go, oh, just wait. I gave this man a platform based off his lies, and I'm gonna wait to heal from it and then clock it, which I did do. And then he goes, I'm sorry, Kayla. And I said, you're good. Thank you. So that was the last time we texted until he flew Evan out to California.
Did we hear that right? Yes, we did. James Charles, the controversy king/queen, had a talk with Kayla Malec about her filming a series, and the next scene, he just flew out with Evan, the abusive partner of Kayla. At this point, we know Kayla was fragile, Evan was abusive, but James somewhere was a culprit. James was the one who was standing in the middle of the situation. Wait, standing or sleeping in the situation? Looks so shitty. Let's see what James did next. Trust us, James can go on in a deep pit of dirt.
I was wondering because there was more to Evan just saying, you know, like, James has asked me to come, you know, stay with him, to come visit him, you know, just to get away because he knows I'm going through depression. Well, there was, you know, some pictures going back and forth, and it was just James, like, you know, just got home, shirtless, and, you know, just laying on his bed, and then he'll just be, like, in his room doing, like, something, you know, angle like this and stuff like that. Just trying to, I guess, look pretty for Evan. So Evan was engaging back with, you know, pictures, and, like, you know, Evan would just sit here and, like, pull his phone up and be like, you know, stick out his tongue and stuff like that. Just kind of, you know, trying to, I guess, engage into like what James is, like, I guess, trying to get to.
Right.
There was another time that we were in the car, and when I say we were in the car, that's obviously we went to get in the car, go eat, go find something to do, you know, go take some content for him and be done. And every single time, like, that was his go-to person. You got to think that Evan had me, but I'm not a celebrity. The only person he had after losing Kayla that he felt that he would be able to stay in the industry was James Charles.
Yes, you heard that right. Again! After hearing Kayla openly say that it was a bad relationship and clearly hinting that Evan was toxic and abusive, James, being James, still decided to try his hands on Evan. Let that sink in. As an influencer, someone with a massive platform, James Charles was expected to stand firmly on the side of truth to support the survivor, not the... But what did he do instead? He chose to flirt. He chose to entertain. He chose to share shirtless, borderline photos with Evan, the same man who had physically assaulted Kayla multiple times. Disgusting? Yes. Disrespectful? Absolutely. Unforgivable? You decide. Because this isn't the first time James has ignored, belittled, or completely disrespected women. We've seen it with Tati Westbrook. We saw it when Ariana Grande distanced herself from him. And now Kayla Malec joins the long list of women who were burned by James Charles' selfishness. At this point, it doesn't just seem like a pattern. It's starting to look like James Charles has a real problem with women, especially when they speak up or refuse to serve his narrative. So let's take a deeper look. No. Where exactly was the James-Evan relationship heading? And what did James really want from someone like Evan, who left nothing but trauma in his path? Let's find out.
There would be nothing out of that. But back to the next car time, there was a message back that James had sent to Evan and says, I have a big surprise for you when you get home. This is after we had left Nashville on the way back to Hendersonville, a local town that we actually are from and live in. So we get back, and little did James know that I actually went home with Evan. And when we get to Evan's house and in his room, Evan message him. They were messaging the whole time anyways. And he lets James know, like, hey, I'm like 5 minutes away from home. Okay, so letting James know, get ready and stuff. I don't know what, I was like confused by the surprise. Well, we get to in Evan's room, and then he notices like Evan takes a picture of himself and is like obviously him in his room. And the next picture was James bent over on his bed with his ass up in the air and was showing his ass and didn't say anything in the first picture. Then messaged is like, how do you like that, daddy?
How do you like that, daddy? Wow. James is 26 and Evan is around 20. First of all, let's just acknowledge how unsettling that age gap is, especially considering the power dynamics and context around Evan's past. But second, and far more disturbing, is the timing and intent behind James Charles' behavior. After hearing Kayla Malec's heart-wrenching story, how she was threatened, financially drained, emotionally shattered, and yes, even raped, all while paying Evan's bills, bailing him out of jail, and staying silent for nearly 10 months out of loyalty and love, this is what James does. He sends half photos, engages in flirty sexual conversations, and turns it into some kind of game? It's not just inappropriate, it's morally bankrupt. It's vile, disrespectful, and insanely tone-deaf. Instead of using his platform and influence to stand by the survivor, to call out to take a stand, James chose to flirt with the monster. James chose to play with fire while the house was still burning. Why not use your voice to fight the evil, James? Why not use your influence to raise awareness, to support women, to show some damn accountability? But no, James Charles chose to sleep with the devil instead. And for anyone who's been watching this unfold from the outside, it's disturbing. Deeply disturbing. This isn't just another scandal. This is a reflection of who he really is.
I am aware that Evan had previously sent some saved photos of, his private parts. And I just want to let you guys know that the next picture was like a picture, but it said video, but there was no talking in it. And it just had a caption on it. And James was bent over completely on the bed and said, "Daddy, I want your big." So I was like, Evan, like, what are you doing? Because like, I don't know if you're leading him on or what, but I don't know what you're doing at this time, because it can always backfire on you. So don't do that, like, if that's the case. And he said that wasn't the case, that James come to him.
I guess I'm also wondering.
So Mr. James, the awful human Charles, had decided to keep their in the air for the most terrifying abuser, Evan, who had been in jail once. The abuser on whom Kayla had decided to make a whole long series of expressing and pointing how he abused and assaulted her for a span of about a year. Why does James Charles love getting into or giving birth to the most hazardous scandals in the history of the internet? Only he knows.
So I was like, oh, okay, so there's a lot more. There was one time that Evan was driving, and he's like, Zach, can you text James back? And the message I had to send back to James was, I can't wait to see you. That was, word for word that, Evan had me speak and send that because he was driving, and I'm in the passenger seat. I'm not wanting to in a car wreck. So I was like, okay, yes, I will do that for you.
So we had heard Kayla saying that too. She did not want to die, and that was the reason she kept doing things that Evan wanted her to do. It is insane of Evan being toxic, not only in his relationship, but also in his friendships.
And when I say also, I just don't want to say the breakup. Deep down, me knowing what the world knows about what Kayla has come forward about, now I do see why, that he went that route, because he kept asking Kayla, like, do you plan on going online? Why, can we keep this private? This is going to ruin me.
So his primary concern was her going public, not her mental health.
Yes, he was not worried about Kayla's mental health. He was not worried about Kayla at all. He was worried about his reputation and if it was going to hurt him or if he was going to get in trouble.
Because he had really just started building a following, which was exclusively due to the fact that he was dating Kayla Malec.
So after all the abusive behavior, all that Evan was worried about and cared about was his own image and reputation. Amazing. You are not at all sorry for your deeds, and you are still very selfish, sitting and thinking about yourself. It is awful. Also, we find this trait in James Charles too, don't we? Committing a mistake, not being sorry, and then caring about just his own image. Well, James and Evan do seem to be compatible that way. Let's move on to what happened next.
And I was like, okay. And then he goes, money's money. Made the comment, money is money.
Well, that's a bizarre comment.
Yeah, so I was confused with that. Then shortly after, where he was so drunk, there is, let's just say, something on his phone, and they did have.
So Evan had gotten drunk and then showed you on Snapchat or on his phone. There is a quick clip.
Yes, it was a very quick clip, and it was actually on Snapchat in his memories, but it was saved as camera roll for some odd reason.
And you believe this video depicted James Charles and Evan Johnson having...
Oh yes, 100%. You can hear 100%. It was...
What did you hear in the video?
So in the video, you could hear James calling Evan daddy, and...
Boom! James Charles had with Evan Johnson. Disturbing, heartbreaking, and annoying. So this all goes back to the day where James Charles whispered in Tati's ear, I can with anybody because I'm famous and I have money. Everything just makes sense now. The dots are connected and the layers are taken off. James Charles' content creation journey started from when he was some 17 to 18. People loved his innocence and charm. People backed him, supported him, and sponsored him. And he backstabbed them. He cheated on everybody, and then his bank account was inversely proportional to the people he had his back. There was a time when all these stories came up and people, especially his fans, were so disturbed that they broke his makeup product in their videos. People unfollowed James Charles massively. We're talking millions of followers gone, and all within a single day. Yes, a single day. That, my friends, is something that has never happened in the history of the internet. It was record-breaking, but for all the wrong reasons. Now, coming back to the real hero of this story, Kayla Malec. You must be wondering, what happened next? Well, Kayla did what many victims dream of doing but rarely get the chance to do. She filed a case against Evan Johnson, and she won. She walked out of that courtroom like a queen, dressed head to toe in a powerful all-black outfit, almost as if she were dressed for a funeral. And honestly, maybe she was. The funeral of her freedom. The funeral of the lies. The funeral of every shred of power he thought he had over her. And in the background of that iconic video clip, the song playing, Guess Who's Going to Jail Tonight? A moment of justice. A moment of closure. A moment the internet and Evan will never forget. Because Kayla Malec didn't just survive, she won. It truly is a proud moment, not just for Kayla Malec, but for every single person who has ever faced and lived to tell their story. Kayla's courage to come forward and share her journey is not just admirable, it's powerful. Her voice echoes in the hearts of those who are still suffering in silence, giving them hope strength, and the realization that they're not alone. Her story has become a beacon of resilience, proving that even after going through the darkest tunnels, light is possible. The support has been overwhelming. People from all over the internet flooded her comment section, congratulating her, applauding her bravery, and thanking her for being the voice they needed to hear. And to everyone out there still stuck in toxic, violent, or abusive situations, let Kayla's story be a reminder. You are worthy, you deserve peace, and you can walk away. Because healing begins the moment you choose yourself. Oh, wait, what did James Charles do?
Do not support Evan Johnson in any way, shape, or form, and let me make that clear. I don't support him, I don't support against, and I sure as hell do not support the disgusting, deplorable, violent acts that he committed against
James being James. Knock knock, YouTube. Could you ban James Charles and cancel him out of our lives? Because honestly, James, stop it. No more lies. So, that was James Charles in his 1,000 Shades of Black for us. With a colorful palette, all he tried to do is start some darker scandals. The colors on his face are as dark as his controversies, and so far, it is unending. Until we stop entertaining ourselves with the content of people like James Charles. What do you think of James Charles and his doings? What punishment do you think should be appropriate for the abusers and abuser supporters like James? Please let us know your thoughts in the comments section below, and do subscribe to our channel for more of such videos. Also, do share this video with as many people as you can. Hey, did you know this creator called Onision had assaulted and exploited a lot of women and how he ended? Check out the video and watch out the full story. Take care and stay tuned.